Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valine, joined alongside Logan Playing. How you doing, Logan?
It's very hot.
Yeah.
I'm very hot, but I'm playing a great game, so I'm good.
We've also got Zach Ross. How you doing, Zach?
I'm also very hot, but also playing a great game.
You're smoking.
Oh my god, I'm on fire.
Yeah, let's beat the heat and talk about the. Is it the biggest game? Because Xenoblade just dropped, or Xenoblade is just dropping.
Is
Are we
it
going to
bigger?
call this one a bigger game? Because we're all playing it. That's why it's big. Live Alive is out. We've all played some of it. I have played 4 of the routes. Logan, you've played 3.
3.5.
Zach is
2.5.
3.5, and Zach has played 2.5. Let's start right there. Logan, what do you think of Live Alive as a whole from the stories that you have played so far?
Dude, I can't believe this game is 30 years old, is really what I think. Like, obviously, visually, it's a remake, but the gameplay is, like, faithful to the original, and it is, like, the freshest RPG I've played in, I feel like, years. And it is 30 years old, and we're just now getting to play it for the first time, and I'm honestly stuck on that fact. I can't get over that. It's like, man, I think a lot of the things it's doing are cool now. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be one of the few people that played this when it came out on the Super Famicom. Like, it's so creative. There's so many little touches and little attention to detail that we'll get into a little more, that I'm like, man, they thought of that, and it's just so cool. You can see inspirations of other games that later down the line would take from this game. A whole chapter with no dialogue, as just told through symbols and gestures, is incredible. Like, I love this game. I think it is so cool. I love JRPGs. You guys know I like to try them. And then, like, Octopath Traveler, I crack hours. Good thing this game's 20 hours, so I'm gonna finish it. I'm very excited about its length. I'm in love with it.
Yeah, the length thing. To go to that first was something that I was kind of curious about going into it, because from what I had heard, it's max about like 20 hours, and you have 7 of these campaigns to do. So the question was, if these campaigns are no longer than 2 or 3 hours a piece, how is it going to feel to be hopping between each one and having new characters and having to level up certain characters again and swapping over and over? And I think it does a great job. I think it switches the gameplay up enough. I mean, the core gameplay of the grid-based RPG combat system is still intact there, but depending on the era that you're in, attacks will be different with certain stories. The hook of the gameplay is different. Like in one story, you're having to have the enemies attack you so that you can learn their moves, so that you can use their moves later. I was really impressed with, despite the fact that I'm swapping between all of these stories, and I thought that was going to be an issue for me because it feels like you're starting from square one again. It always made it fresh with each story. Zach, what have you thought so far?
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it so far. I've really enjoyed my time with Live Alive. Obviously, the HD 2D style is one of the things I was most excited about, because ever since I had seen it with that like teaser for Dragon Quest 3, I was like, I need more games that look like this. So finally being able to hop in and play one, super exciting. Like I said, I've only done about 2.5, and one of the ones that I've done is probably the shortest one. I can't imagine there was one shorter than 30 minutes, because the present day one that I did was pretty gimmicky. It's the one you mentioned where you just go from fight to fight. You don't really do any exploration or grinding. It's just you fight these masters trying to learn their moves, and when they attack you with their move, you learn it, which I thought was a pretty cool gimmick, but ended up not taking very long. And then the prehistory one, which is the no dialogue one. So that's the one I did first. So I wasn't really sure that there was going to be any voice acting in this game until I had beaten it and moved on. But I like the voice acting a lot. I didn't expect there to be as much as there is.
There is a lot.
There's a good amount of voice acting, which I imagine wasn't the case in the original. I imagine there was 0.
Yep.
Yeah. So
you guys played in English or Japanese?
I swapped it to Japanese.
I did too. I found some of the English in the Wild West specifically a little uneven, so I swapped it to Japanese, and I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Overall. How was the English in the prehistory?
Lots of grunting.
I think actually that one's just the Japanese voice actors.
Yeah, there's only one
when
voice
the
actor
cast comes in at the end, it's just one person instead of 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was honestly impressed that the normal dialogue was voiced, because you have some voice acting at the beginning that kind of sets the stage of all of these stories. I'm like, okay. And then you get to the main part of the game, and there's still dialogue and all of that. And there's so many different characters because they're having to, you have 7 different stories with different characters for each one. So I was impressed that they went to the lengths that they did to have it pretty fully voiced throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm loving the length of the chapters. The prehistory was like a little over 2 hours, I would say.
Yep.
To get through
Something
the
like
whole thing.
Yeah.
And in the time that a traditional JRPG, you'd probably still be in like the first town, like getting your first weapon, fighting your first battles, meeting the important characters. And this game manages to tell a complete tale, albeit very simple, right? From start to finish in that same amount of time. And I just love that concept of these like 7 little vignettes that I assume are all going to tie together. I don't know how the end of this game goes down, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do pull that off. But I just am really, really enjoying that. And leveling up does matter, and you do even have to grind just a tiny bit in the caveman chapter to fight the final boss. And there's a mini game you can do in the first area that you could totally miss, but it gives you a ton of really good equipment right away. And I'm like, man, this is kind of out of the way. I hope everybody finds this because it's kind of important.
That's how because you need to get those items to craft into certain weapons and gear,
which is a crazy mechanic too. That like you just hand a caveman 2 materials and then he makes something and you don't know what it's
without any dialogue. So you
it.
have no idea.
And then because they have different versions of this guy throughout the area that you go to, and I don't think the game will remind you of how you crafted previous items. So you're sitting there. Maybe you crafted those things an hour ago and you find them again. You're like, oh man, have I done this already? Have I crafted this again? Like I gotta figure out. And if I got new items, which ones have I already used and which ones haven't I to create new weapons and things, which is
so
cool.
Have you guys done the Wild West?
Yes, I have not.
Okay, so I won't get too far into it, but the Wild West has been my favorite of the 4 I've played so far. Only finished 3, but of the 4 I've experienced, that's been my favorite. And it's very short and basically entirely revolves around this one mechanic, this one like time limit mechanic. Man, is it the earliest game to deal with like a real world timer? Like I can't think of a game earlier than that. Like besides like Mario Brothers get to the level before the end, but like in terms of this like resource management in a certain limited number of time and how well you do impacts the rest of that path. That was super cool and super unique, and I really love how that played out. I like the characters in that town. There's amazing attention to detail in the cowboy level. Like there's the 3 mariachi band players that are playing music, and when one of them leaves the room, the soundtrack gets thinner because his part of the soundtrack drops out of the music that's playing. I'm just like, who thinks of that? Who thinks of that 30 years ago? Like, I thought little details like that were just so cool.
Yeah, the Wild West one was a highlight. I think for me, my favorite was Japan. That cool. I think was the most feature rich to me. And it also has some of those random moments that you don't think will impact the rest of the area. And it does. Like, I don't want to spoil what happened, but there was a fight
heard it's
that
like
I did.
Undertale. I've heard that route is what Undertale's directly inspired
by. It tracks how many enemies you've killed. There are 100 enemies, and you can try and stealth through this entire thing and get to the end, or you can kill as many guys as you want, and it'll track every time you kill an enemy. It'll go up on screen and be like, enemies killed. I think I killed 37 or something.
Right. Pretty brutal.
But there was one enemy that I fought with, and it completely changed how I had to play the rest of the game. That had an impact on what was happening throughout the rest, which I thought was super cool. And there's just a lot of exploration in that area with these different Edo style buildings and pagodas where you have secret entrances to certain things and attics and going up on roofs. And I was blown away with that. I think that was, to me, the most fleshed out content rich story. Not to say that the other ones don't have their own really cool sections, but I think that was the one that I was most impressed by.
I'm excited for that one.
Personally, for me, I know it was pretty short, but present day, it's basically just a fighting game. I was super into it. I loved it. And I found out the cheese strat pretty early on, so it was just a breeze getting through all of them, especially the second guy who just ended up killing himself He
Yeah.
did this move where he just jumped at me, missed, and did 300 damage to himself and just died.
I've never seen that attack miss because in the description for it says just don't miss. I've never seen it miss.
Really?
I didn't know that's what
I
it
got
did.
0 moves from that guy because he killed himself so early that I just learned nothing from him.
I replayed every fight to get every move because there's only 2
yeah,
moves you get
same.
from everybody, so I got them
Yeah.
all. But that one's super cool because I know that Mega Man already existed at the time, but it's Mega Man. It's you pick what order you want, you gain their powers, and their moves are then super effective against other bosses' moves, and that's so cool. That's
Yeah, so depending on which enemy
RPG
you picked first, you can just absolutely rinse the next guy because he's weak
absolutely.
to, like footwork attacks or punching attacks or whatever. Or if you don't have those, it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah, so I picked I picked present day first and decided it was bad because a bad idea because I didn't know how the combat worked, so I was getting stomped because it doesn't super explain how the meter works and like when does it charge and like because sometimes it's random.
Sometimes,
yeah. I
if
think
we want to get into combat,
prehistory was a good starter to learn the combat because it's very combat heavy, and
it starts off very simple too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's get into the combat a little bit here. So it's a grid-based system, and you have these different attacks. There's no MP, so you can use the same attack as many times as you want, which I think is a really cool level of freedom. So you have a grid, and you have to move along the grid, and certain attacks have different areas of attack that they can damage. So you have to get into the right position to attack a certain other character. And yeah, it does have this, I don't know what to call it exactly.
Action bar?
A movement bar, something like that, where as you move, then it gives your enemy a chance to move as well.
Yeah.
I did feel like sometimes there was a point in present day where on one attack, I was given 2 in between. I could use 2 attacks, and then the second time I was only able to get 1, and he was able to go right away. And there's debuffs and buffs that can change things a little bit, and speed stats that can change things a little bit. I do wish at the very least for that it was a little bit easier to grasp when you can attack. Sometimes it's very clear, and you're like, okay, I can attack first because my bar just filled. But sometimes it can be a little bit confusing as to, can I attack here? Or, when are you going to be able to do like the interruption mechanic where they're charging up for an attack, but they can't attack yet. And then you can go in and interrupt that attack. It's a little bit unclear with that whole stamina movement system.
Yeah, it's interesting because like there's some attacks that require charge time and it says at the top, like charge time low. And then sometimes, like you're saying, he just pulls it off right away. But then sometimes it's like, the enemy's going now. And then you do it. And I'm like, I don't get when that happens. Yeah.
I had a moment where I guess the enemy didn't realize what he was doing, but I interrupted him like 5 times in a row, and he kept doing the same attack over and over. And then it just didn't work anymore. He was using a similar attack, but the interruption mechanic didn't work the same way that it did. So it's a little bit unwieldy with that. But overall, the combat system with the grids and all these different attacks, what are your guys' thoughts on the combat as a whole? Zach, what did you think?
I think overall, I've really enjoyed it. It feels fun to use, and it's been pretty interesting to figure it out. And I think I got a pretty good grasp of it by the end of prehistory. The balancing seemed a little weird in prehistory. Some enemies you could easily one-shot, and by the end I had a move that did like 500 damage. So the final boss, I just paralyzed him and then wiped him off the face of the map. So there's a character, a female character who joins your party. There's a female character in your party, and she gets it at like level 5, and I beat the boss at main character level 8, and she was under leveled because she joins later. But she got this song called like damage song or something like that, and it takes 2 turns to use, but does 500 damage. So that was like half the final boss's health bar, and he was paralyzed, so there was nothing he could do.
I had a similar cheese in the present day, the boxing one, where I had this move that like lowered his bar. I don't know which one it was, but I felt like it lowered their energy bar. And I just did it over and over, and I
And
did
they
it 6
just couldn't
times in a
go?
row, and they couldn't attack once because I did that move 6
I
times in a
don't
row.
think
and
I
they're done.
ever used that
I
move.
haven't used
don't
that
know.
one yet. I'm on
It
the
was
final
only
boss
against
of that
one
one.
boss that it did that against. So I don't know if it was like a glitch.
Should I say
or
what my cheese strat in the present day was? Because it was
Yeah.
kind of nasty. If you got hit, there's just a good chance that he would counter with a random attack. So all you had to do was stand next to the opponent, you use your self heal, get hit, counter, heal, counter, heal, counter, heal, counter. You would take
Oh.
pretty much no damage, and you would be constantly attacking him. And I did that
Pretty
for
good.
every boss,
It
and
even worked for the
every
final
time.
boss, really.
Yes, yeah.
Because the final boss can hit harder than you can
If
heal.
you get hit harder
That
than
was
you can
hard.
heal, you just walk to the other side of the map. They spend 3 turns getting to you,
Yeah,
and you
okay.
heal 3 times.
Yep.
Interesting. All right.
So yeah, it was
We'll
a
have to
little
try that.
broken. Yeah,
There are
Two more
some
things
moves
I
that are a
wanna
little
say.
bit questionable.
yeah.
But it's fun to figure them out, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was fun to figure that out in the prehistory. And yeah, it kind of helps for her because she's kind of a glass cannon. So you
To
kind of
be
have to keep her in the
fair,
back. And so it's easier
yeah.
for her to charge up the attack because she's not getting hit
Mhm.
because you're trying to keep her
Mhm.
away because she can get one shot so easily.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't have that move for her until the final boss, so it's not like I was using it in every fight. Some of the fights were challenging, especially against like the leader of the rival tribe.
Mhm.
He was actually pretty challenging, and I did have to grind. Like I lost, had to go back, grind a little, gain a couple levels, and go back. So yeah, it was fairly well balanced.
Did you grind in that room you enter where there's like 30 dudes just standing in it? Did anyone go in that room?
I did.
I
They
went
gave
in there-
0 XP. They
I
gave
went in
very,
there
very
once
little XP.
when there's a point where you lose your partner character for a bit, and I went in there just myself, and they all came out. I'm like, I'm not going back in there because I'm just me. And then I completely forgot about it after that. By the time I
Yeah,
got
they're
my
actually
partner
really
character,
easy.
I didn't.
You can one-shot all of them, especially with
Mhm.
like the sleep move that has a huge AoE.
There's a
Or the
similar
attack that he
point.
gets at level 9 where he screams and you just
I
wipe
beat
them.
Oh,
I
yeah, that
beat
one's
the
pretty
boss
good.
at level 8,
Yeah.
so I don't know that move.
Yeah, there's a point
yeah.
in Japan as well where you get to a certain room and there are enemies that respawn. And if you're at a certain level, for like 1 or 2 levels, you can fight 1 or 2 of the guys and they will level you up just
Oh,
like
wow.
right there.
Nice.
So
Not bad.
pretty good.
My favorite quality of life thing about this game that I have to mention is that you get fully healed after every battle. Oh
right,
my god, every RPG should do that. It is the most obnoxious thing to have to heal after battle or be like, I'm out of healing items, I have to go back. Live Alive treats healing items as just only for in battle. If you need health now in battle, you use it. And then after battle, like Kev said, there's no MP, and then your HP goes back to full. I think that's glorious. I think it is so convenient that they do it that way.
Yeah, it makes me much more inclined to use healing items in battle
Oh,
because
yeah, me too. 100%.
you know, there are a lot of times when you want to save it for overworld because you don't want to have to backtrack all the way to the nearest town and heal and get all the way back to where you're going again. And it just gives you a complete level of freedom. On the MP side of things, I think that would be a little bit harder to pull off with with a full-fledged RPG because with this, you're learning these attacks. And since the stories are so short, you get these OP moves, but by that time, you either haven't gotten to that point because you haven't leveled up enough, or you're right at the final boss, and you can really only cheese that move for a little bit. I feel like other RPGs with a longer runtime, I think the MP system is a little bit more necessary. But at the very least, for HP, it's a great system that I think should be implemented in some form in other RPGs just to kill backtracking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's super nice. Yeah, I love this game. Also, the soundtrack slaps. It's so good. The music is so good in this game.
Good.
Yeah, what the boss theme is called Megalomania, which was what inspired Megalovania. So that's pretty cool too. Like, dang.
I had no idea Undertale took so much inspiration from this game.
I know. It's like the secret grandfather of RPGs that nobody ever knew.
Now we know.
Now we know. And it's awesome.
Yeah, playing it is crazy to me that this thing came out, 30 odd years ago now?
28 years ago, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the ideas that are presented in it, I could take it as a brand new title. Like it, especially with the fresh coat of paint. The HD 2D style is fantastic. And I want more old school RPGs to bring that style forward. I'm really excited for the Dragon Quest remake that uses that same graphic style because it's glorious. But I think that someone who is not aware of Live Alive originally, which I think is a lot of people because it didn't come west, could pick this game up and just think that it's a brand new title, because the ideas that it introduces are super fresh and really have not shown up in many, if any, games after it. And it's crazy that it took so long to get here.
Yeah, super glad it's here. This could be high on my game of the year list this year. I think this game is so cool. I don't even think I've played the chapters that are the best yet. Like, I think I still have some of the coolest chapters ahead, and then whatever happens after you finish them all. So
hopefully something.
Yeah, I am curious how it's all going to tie together, because as you're playing it, they're really self-contained.
I have no idea how these would even connect.
Really,
at all.
no way that they connect to each other. But apparently,
they're all related.
There's something that happens that
well, there's one thing I've noticed
connects.
But I don't want to share. But
I haven't noticed it.
Yeah, there's one thing I've definitely noticed that I see that connects them all, but it's very minor. But I won't share it. But we'll see. Well, maybe we should do a spoiler cast of this game since we all played it. This doesn't come along often.
Yeah,
and it's not super long, so we'll all be done with it.
I think I'll be done with it next week. I think I'm just going to plow through it this weekend.
I might just drop it and never play it again.
It's so good. I'll never play it again. That's
spite
another
you all.
refreshing thing. Just not even that the length of these certain chapters is short and bite-sized, which I think lends itself well to having a session for each. If you like RPGs but are a little bit busy, you know, you can set aside an evening and just play through a self-contained story and then be done with that story and not have to worry about constantly keeping up with a cast of characters that are going to be with you for example, Xenoblade 3 that just came out, well over 100 hours. It's so much easier. And then you add that all together for a 20-hour runtime, and it's super easy to swallow for an RPG. It's great. I don't want all RPGs to be like that, but when one comes along like it, it's fantastic.
It's everything I wanted Octopath Traveler to be. It is seriously. Like, that's the most direct comparison for me personally. Gorgeous HD 2D style, which I loved in Octopath. Paths that actually like have good stories to tell instead of Octopath's story, which wasn't very good, and a short runtime, and really not that much grinding. Like, the grinding that was in the prehistory chapter was fine. It was totally fine.
Yeah, it's not super intrusive. And I think the combat system is fun enough. And you're only with these characters for a certain set of time that, in a way, you kind of want to do a couple of more battles just to have some more time with their play styles before you move on to the next story that has a different character and different moves and things. Yeah, very impressed with it. And we may have final thoughts on that next week, because we're halfway or more through each of us.
I'm very excited to play more, so you never know.
Super good. Last thing, favorite chapter you had so far, Logan? What was your
Wild West?
Wild
so
West.
Far. Yeah.
Zach?
Present day. And then I'll go with Japan.
But I'm excited for you guys to play the Japan one. Zach, it's got stealth mechanics.
As soon as you said that, I was like, I know which one I'm doing next.
But again, you can. I don't know how much it says that it affects the ending of it based on how many people you killed. I don't know how much that was, because I only played through it once and I killed 37 guys and the ending seemed fine. But maybe, Zach, you can get through it and kill as few people as possible.
If I kill
we can
zero
come back
people,
and see if
the
stories are a lot different.
Absolutely. True pacifist run.
You could try it. All right, let's get into news, and we got a lot to talk about. So last week we recorded a little bit early, which meant that some of the news items that dropped last week we didn't have time to get to because we were early on that. And then we have some pretty big items to get to that have just recently dropped. Let's get into one of those ones that just dropped, GTA 6. So we've been sitting here wondering, when is this game going to come out? GTA 5 came out almost a decade ago, 2013, which surprises me every time that it's been a decade next year that game has been out. And we're finally getting some concrete details as to what this game is going to be like. We've got 2 playable characters, a female character. You've got a Miami setting, so going back to Vice City, kind of like how GTA 5 went back to San Andreas and that style. Not a whole lot more beyond that, and a better work-life balance for the staff, which, if you remember from a couple of years ago with Red Dead Redemption 2, the crunch was getting absolutely ridiculous. And the level of callousness that I think some of the heads were talking about it, like when that game was, on its way out, and one of the heads was like, yeah, we're putting in 100-hour weeks, like it was nothing. Like he was just saying some little feature that was going to be in the game. So it sounds like they have tried to completely overhaul the culture of the studio as well, which may have led to a slightly longer period of time between 5 and 6. But Zach, as someone who has played some of the GTA games, just from this little bit of information that we've got, what are your thoughts on GTA 6?
Yeah, it's hard being a GTA fan who's only in it for like the story mode and not the multiplayer, because I haven't had really
Especially
anything to do in
recently,
10
yeah.
years. Yeah. So and the remakes of San Andreas and so forth are
Awful.
just awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful. So I'm hoping that this one hopefully gets the support while maintaining, of course, a good work-life balance. I'm sure the story will be decently long, because I think even GTA 5 had a decently long story, but that might have been before they decided to focus on the multiplayer. So I'm hoping they don't just really go, headstrong into the multiplayer for GTA 6 and actually
it's going to
make
be
some
there
stuff for single player content. Oh, of course.
Take-Two will not let that go.
Yeah,
for
there's
any
no
of
way it's
Rockstar's
not
big
going to be a
titles.
huge focus. But I'm sure just going around the world, and hopefully a co-op campaign just in case. Because Logan and I started playing GTA 5 together, kind of fell off of it. We might pick up GTA 6, play it together. Who knows? Excited to see a female main character in that. That's going to be exciting. And I like that they introduced multiple main characters in 5 and that they're bringing that across. And I think I saw that they're also planning on supporting GTA 6 after launch with new missions and areas that you can play
Yeah,
in post-launch.
so
I don't know if that was a rumor or not.
Well,
That
all of
was-
this is
was
just
in
from a
here.
report. None of
Wow.
this is from Rockstar. So
Sure. Of course.
I mean,
the details are enough here where you think that this is
yeah,
this
it's
is
not
pretty well
it's
true.
from Bloomberg. It's from Jason Schreier, so it's pretty reputable. It's not just like a rumor. But yeah, they are saying that they're gonna have more cities coming over time. And for me, I think that my main takeaway from this news is like, so what's the launch version going to look like? How much content's going to be there when this thing actually comes out? We talk about this all the time with games that come out, don't have that much content, and they get patchworked over time. On the Nintendo side, we talk about it a lot with like Mario Sports games. For a game of this scale, I want to know what that's going to look like when it comes out. Like, is there going to be a full 30 to 40 hour campaign that people want? Or is it going to be like, here's one city to romp around in, city 2 coming in 3 months? Like, I don't know how it's going to go.
I guess it depends on how they structure it. You would hope that the entire campaign is playable on launch. And if they do have these other cities that they're introducing later as part of the story, that it's almost like a story expansion, like they did in past games. GTA 5 didn't have it, but GTA 4 had a couple of different, they had the Ballad of Gay Tony and
Lost in the Damned.
So if they could pull it off with that style, where it's kind of its own separate thing within this story, or maybe some side stories with these main characters, as long as that main campaign is content rich, I could go for that. But we really don't know how it's all going to be structured. It sounded like they had these grand ideas for a massive map with completely different areas that you could explore in different parts of the world, and that they've pared that back down to Miami, its surrounding areas, and then whatever ends up happening with these other cities. Is that going to be? I can't imagine that would just be pasted on to the map that's already there. Are those going to be explorable by themselves or something? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
lots of question marks
and years away from answers.
Yeah. At least 2 years, if not more. It sounds like 2024 is the good bet for even a chance of this thing coming out in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Speaking of those Mario sports games, Strikers has gotten its first update. I don't know about you, Logan, but this is not bringing me back. Daisy is back, which is great, but it's also, why wasn't this in the base game? So we got Daisy and Shy Guy as the playable characters.
Shy Guy? What's
Shy
the
Guy's
deal?
a weird thing. So 2 characters, 1 stadium, and gear. That's it.
Yeah, and some slight tweaks to gameplay.
Oh, yeah, there's also the gameplay tweaks to nerf your... Yeah.
Oh, the bounce off the wall thing? Is that what you're talking about?
The shots from center. So from the little bit that we played online when the game first came out, Logan would just immediately get the ball and then shoot it from the center. If you had an item, you could clear the way and just shoot from there, and you'd score almost every time. So they knew that was a problem. So good that that's fixed. But in terms of new content, for the people like me who played it for a bit and are kind of done with it, new characters and a new map are not going to bring us back. Specifically the map, because the map has no bearing on anything.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Absolutely no bearing. And that's kind of why I talked about Charged earlier. Now, again, I think that some people have different opinions on stage hazards, but at the very least, it made certain stadiums more varied. And it felt like it mattered which stadium that you picked, but they introduced this new stadium and it does nothing. It's just a new set of paint. And it's not even like, oh, it's not like tennis where, oh, they have different court styles and maybe that has a different effect on how the ball plays. This is the exact same thing. This is like a nothing addition, these new stadiums.
Well, Mario Tennis Aces did it right with adding content into where it actually kept the game alive for a while. And here's how they did it, and here's what Strikers isn't doing. They added in new courts that actually did change things. Like you said, not only were they new court types, they had different gimmicks. Like Zach, you remember the court that has like it's on the pirate ship and it has the mast in the middle. And it can bounce off that and deflect. And it's crazy and makes for some super fun for me, frustrating for Zach moments. And so that's a big thing. They add characters, which is cool, right? They're adding characters to this. They added characters to tennis. But they also add costumes for pre-existing characters, which they're doing here through the gear, but you can just buy the gear. To unlock the alternate costumes, which you didn't need, they were just cool to look, you had to play online games. And then you unlocked points by playing online and unlocked these costumes. And so every month there was a spike in player interest as people come back and play until they fill up the bar to earn the costume. It's the same model we see on a much larger scale with something like Fall Guys or Fortnite, where you have the season passes that go on for months at a time. And when the new one drops, people come back to play that, fill up the bars, and then leave. People love to fill up bars. There's nothing to fill up in Mario Strikers. It's just like, here's new characters. They're unlocked automatically. You can buy their gear with coins, and coins are really hard to get. So I guess there's the incentive to play online. But still, it's not like there's this urgent, limited time, eventized thing pushing people to play online. And then the last thing Aces did is they added new single player modes. They added the ring shot mode. They added like online cooperative modes where you'd have to like take down a boss together, which was way more fun than fighting the bosses in the single player. Like they added real content to that game. And this game is just like, I played one match as Daisy and Shy Guy, and I was like, this doesn't change the experience at all, nor are there new goals for me to go reach for. So what's the point? This isn't going to bring anybody back, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I guess on the gear system too, because it's almost like you can make the same character. You can make a same version of a character depending on which character you pick. If you give them certain gear, they can all have the same stats. So it's not even like you pick Daisy and she plays wildly different. You can make her play near the same to how another character plays just by messing with her gear so that she has similar stats.
Yeah, and I had to write the guide for this game. And one of the big challenges for me personally was I don't think gear's all that important, but that's what people were searching for. So I had to try and write these gear guides of like the optimum teams. But for me personally, I think you can win with any team. I think you can win with any setup because the way to score goals really has nothing to do with the gear. There's a bunch of cheesy ways to score. They nerfed one of them, but there's a bunch more that aren't nerfed that I did play it after the patch. And you can still score these ways no matter what type of gear you have. You just need to have one person with a high shooting stat. You'll score. That's it. So yeah, the gear doesn't do much for me either. Yeah, this game is not the content drop I wanted. And then they even had a tweet that's like, and we're adding two more updates this year with more characters, gear, and stages. I'm like, well, that's it. Striker, it's dead.
Yeah. Because if people weren't drawn back by this update, especially because Daisy was here, Daisy was the biggest character miss from the main roster.
Yeah.
These updates aren't going to bring people back.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they thought it would almost be like a Smash Brothers like thing, where when a new character drops, everyone picks it back up. And the characters are so deep in Smash Brothers. You
Yep.
get a new stage that matters. You get a new classic route that's different. You get patch updates for all your favorite characters that change. You get a new spirit board to go. Like, there's so much to do with a simple character drop. And in Strikers, there's essentially nothing to do when a new character drops.
It's like, hey, you want a new skin to play as the character? Or you want a new Super Strike move? That's all you get.
Yeah, I'm in a Discord server for the Strikers Club that I started.
Rip.
That I think Kevin is in.
I am in. I played on like launch day, and I have not played since.
For the first 2 seasons, the seasons are a week long. We won our division. We scored hundreds of points. People were posting clips of their highlights in the thing. It's just dead now. No one's even touched that Discord channel for like 3 weeks, and the game came out a month and 7 days ago. Yeah. All right.
How many people was it easy to find a match when you went in just for a couple of rounds?
I tried to find a match the day Daisy and Shy Guy came out, and it took me over 2 minutes to match make.
Oh, my goodness.
Not good.
Nope.
Because the game is still relatively new right after a content drop. Besides launch day, the content drops are the times that you would expect it to be easy to find a match.
I will say I did play in the quick play online, which there's literally no incentive to do because they give you like 10 coins and you don't unlock anything. So I'm guessing if you go into the club mode and play online, it's a little faster than that. But if you just want to hop into a quick play match with all of your own characters, because remember the Strikers Club characters, you can only use I can only design one character. And then, I have to tell Kevin to change his gear if I want to use, so I wanted to play with Daisy and Shy Guy. And so to play as Daisy and Shy Guy, I had to go and do that in the quick play, in which it took over 2 minutes to find a match 1.5 months after launch.
Really disappointing. This is so far, and I don't think anything's going to top it, my most disappointing game of the year. I played that thing. I don't think I have dropped off a game that fast. It was literally launch day, and I was done. I played it, played a couple of matches, and that was it. And it sucks because I love the first 2 games, and this one is just not it. And it's also really frustrating because so much of the game is built on the online. And if the game dies this quick, there goes the selling point of this game. The selling point was the leagues. Besides that, the game is threadbare with content, which it already is even with the online. And if the online is gone or dead, there is no incentive to play this whatsoever.
Yep.
What a game.
I dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, you did.
Buy it.
Yeah, I did not dodge a bullet. Regret that decision every day.
Every day?
Not every
day.
You
don't think about the game that much.
Every day? No, I regret it when the new update comes out. And I'm like, wow, the new update is out, and I still don't want to go back and play it.
I still liked the gameplay. I played that game for 40 hours, and I'm satisfied with my personal experience, but upset that I'm probably never going to play it again.
Yeah.
But I played that game for a while.
No one else likes it.
Yeah, I know. None of my friends like it. No one wants to play with me, just like Aces. Aces is so much better than this.
It's such a bad game.
Aces is not a bad game.
It's a bad
either the
game.
First 2 Strikers, honestly. I would play either.
Both bad games.
Wow.
All right. Okay.
we're getting to the Zach moment of that. Let's get into something else. So, Last of Us Part 1 is coming out in a little over a month. Zach with some spicy takes.
Sorry.
And the discourse going around over in the internet the last couple of weeks was, is this game worth $70? And PlayStation comes out with a new trailer video, like a 10-minute video that shows off some of the new features. It shows off some side-by-sides of the graphics that I think do a better job of showing the upgrades than that initial trailer did. They show off some new modes for Zach, who is a masochist and hates himself. There's permadeath mode. So when this game comes out, I assume Zach will be banging his head against the wall with possible permadeath.
Yeah, it's a feature that they added back when Last of Us 2 had already been out for a little while, and it came out as an update. I never got the chance to go back and play it because I haven't ever replayed The Last of Us 2 since I beat it the first time, and I've always been meaning to, but I've always been playing other stuff. But I've already beat Last of Us 1 on grounded mode, so I think the next logical step is obviously playing it on permadeath.
Obviously. There's no other option.
Permadeath grounded.
You have to do
Sorry. permadeath grounded mode.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
That would be awful. So you got permadeath mode, you got a speedrun mode. They showed off again some graphical comparisons. There's a lot of accessibility features, which is great. One of the ones that they showed off was audio descriptors. So yeah, there's a lot of those accessibility features, and of course you have dual sense features as well, which we have come to expect in other games with how you use certain guns that will change how it feels on certain on the dual sense. They showed off the bow and how if you're pulling it back further and further, that tightness will be felt in the dual sense. So we get all this, and the question still remains: is this worth $70?
Well, that's a personal choice. I don't think there is a definitive yes or no answer. If you've never played The Last of Us before, yes, it's worth $70. If you like me and you have it on PS4 and free to download on PlayStation Plus, no. But I think it varies per person. So I think that, I don't know. I think the conversation of is it worth $70 is like not really one you can have because it depends on the person. You can have that discussion about any purchase you ever make. Was Mario Strikers Battle League worth $60? Not to Kevin. It was not. Was Mario Tennis Aces worth $60 to Zach? No. For me, nope. Absolutely. I love Mario Tennis Aces. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird discussion. I saw a tweet that I really, really liked that was like, when movies come out on Blu-ray after previously being released on DVD, they cost the Blu-ray cost. It doesn't matter that they're already on DVD and you could buy it there because it's a more premium experience. And I think that applies to games. And for some reason, there's a weird disconnect with games where you don't blink twice about that discussion over something like movies. But with games, you're like, nope, not worth it. And it is a more premium experience. If you love this game, you want to play it at PS5 quality, go for it. Zach's going for it. Kevin and I aren't. And that's what I think.
It's worth it to me personally. I'm not paying $70 for it because I'm splitting the cost with a friend of mine and we're playing it together.
Good way to do it.
But I would pay $70 for it. It's worth it to me because I love that game.
Guess it depends on the person. It is a bigger cost than say a $10 DVD to a $30 Blu-ray instead of a $10 or $20 game to a $70 game. And I guess it's a little bit more acute when you just had the price increase from $60 to $70.
Yes.
So I can understand that. And that kind of hurts for me because I know that it'll take longer to get down to a price that I'd be willing to pay for it because I'd like to play this game at some point. But I've already played it on PS4. It's already available there. And just based on precedent from previous Sony games are not dropping in price nearly as fast as they did on PS4. PS4 games, you could expect that thing to be $20-$25 for most of them within that first year. By the end of that first year that the game was out, it was about that low. And now Ratchet and Clank is an example. I don't think I've really seen that game below $35-$40. And it's been out for a while now. So for me, as someone who is waiting on that, it is a little bit sad to know that it's going to be a much longer wait to play this game since I've already played it and I don't need to play it in this style. But it was at the very least nice to see this trailer because I think it did a much better job of showing this game off than that initial trailer did. Because some of those side-by-sides from that initial one, I honestly, it didn't really matter either way. But when they showed off some of the vistas, some of the foliage changes in certain areas, it was much more noticeable.
Destructible environments actually reacting to gunfire and explosions. I think that's super cool.
Also, they pushed this video out the same day that the game leaked, so that sucked. I feel like they rushed it together. I'm sure they were planning something similar, but the game leaked that morning, and people were like, this looks the same. And it didn't. It looked better, but that's the internet. That's the curse of this franchise is things leaking and everyone hating it before actually seeing the final product for themselves, which sucks. I don't know what's going on there. Naughty Dog, why is everything leaking that you do?
Over and over.
Yeah. I'm not buying it at launch. I'm going to borrow Zach's copy after he's done with it, and I'm very excited to play
that's
it.
The play
this year.
I will not be playing it for a while because I'd have to pick it up myself.
Yep.
And I think 2025 would be the sweet spot for me. But yeah, that's the decision that you have to make. And I do think that if you are someone that has not played these games before, either $70 or when it hits that first sale of 60 or 55, probably a good time to hop in.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I love
the rest of us that have already played, I don't know.
And I love that it's going to visually match Last of Us Part 2. I think that's really nice to have those pair of games that already go very well together and have them look the same. I really like that. I think that's cool.
Get into another big game that is not going to be coming out anytime soon. So KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, we had the just remasters that were launched a little while ago, with knowing that a full-blown remake of the original KOTOR was in the works, and that has been halted completely at this point. And it's kind of up in the air what's going to happen to it, if it's going to swap to a different developer or what. This game is completely up in the air at this point, which is crazy. It's as I feel like you don't see this too often with a game as high profile as this one, but at this point, you don't really know. You had Asper Media, who was developing this thing. They were originally targeting 2022, and now they're putting it on the back burner, possibly moving it to a different studio within their group. Something happened here.
Yeah, it's like Metroid Prime 4. Guess the game was just not in the state that whoever was overseeing it wanted to be in. Asper, I thought, was an interesting choice for this because they have mostly been remastering. Like, they remastered the old ones and put it out on Switch. And they're also building a PS5 quality remake from the ground up. Yes, it's the same game and the same source, but that is not the same process of development to say, okay, you remaster this, port this basically to Switch, and then make it from scratch. Like, I thought they were an interesting studio choice from the start. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see it. What is the deal with Star Wars games? Because we got that Quantic Dream one, Star Wars Eclipse, which apparently isn't coming out for like 6 years, according to like internal struggles. So yeah, this was one of the big announcements from the PS5 showcase that I was excited about. And it was just one of those CGI trailers that lasted like 5 seconds. You knew it was far away. And now here we are.
Zach, were you at all interested in this one, or does this not kind of hit your radar at all?
Yeah, I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, so I never really pay close attention to these things. And I really got to play the Jedi Fallen Order because Logan's forcing me to play it. And I've heard good things. And I liked The Force Unleashed. Is that what it was called? But I played that like over a decade ago, so who knows? I'm so off the radar on Star Wars.
Again, we've talked about this over and over, showing off these games really, really early on when you have literally nothing to show.
Yep.
Almost never works.
Yeah.
Because even if the game is on the normal schedule that you thought it was going to be on, that means that between that initial trailer and when you're gearing up to launch it, it's probably 2 or 3 years that people have just been sitting waiting for it. And if you have any sort of delay or something happens like this, that makes it all the more acute. Decision. Last couple of small bits of news. Yakuza 8 got a slight
excited
leak. Not really a leak because they let this go up, but this is not through Sega's official channels. This is through an MMA fighter.
Who's appearing in the game. Because they do a lot of that. They have certain celebrities appearing in these games in certain small or larger roles. And in his YouTube video, he had a couple of pictures or the sections that showed off the characters. And that's it. So Ichiban has a new haircut. The main cast returns. And that's all we knew.
Nice.
Yeah. And we already knew it was in development. So besides the haircut, there's really not a whole lot there. But it's nice to see it resurface again. You know,
cool to see it.
And I think that there was a brief interview that said it's still going to be turn-based, and it said a couple years in the future. So that's basically all we know.
It's a little bit longer of a time span than what they normally do.
I know.
Pumping these things out every 2 years or whatever. Taking a little bit longer with this one. And last, a little bit of news. Fall Guys may be getting a Sonic themed stage. So another leak. We've got the Sonic character skins coming back. Although if you're not paying real money, that may be really hard to acquire those.
I'm hoarding my show bucks for when the new ones come in.
You gonna have enough?
Smart. No,
I'm probably gonna have to drop a few bucks. That's the one series I think I'll do it for.
Oof.
It's for Sonic.
But yeah, we get a look at a level in this leak for Bean Hill Zone, and it looks like it's not a race. It looks more like a tail grabbing game or something like that. As the seasoned Fall Guy veterans, what did you guys think of this leak of Bean Hill Zone?
It's cool. I'm excited to see like actual crossover content. We had that Horizon thing where they had like the rhinos that were like decked out in Horizon armor, but we've never had like a level dedicated to a game outside of Fall Guys, and I think that'd be a really cool thing to get. I think Sonic would be a cool one to do it with. Of course, it's Green Hill Zone. It's always Green Hill Zone. Why can't it ever be something other than Green Hill Zone?
Yeah, they could have done Chemical Plant.
Oh my god. Or they could have done anything else. How about anything else? But yeah, the other costumes that leaked were Supersonic, Eggman, and Tails. So yeah.
I've had a good idea. I think that for this stage, if it is a Tails game, it should be where you have to have 2 tails and you have to hold on to 2 tails for a certain amount of time. So you're just like Tails.
Yeah, that could be fun.
A little bit of a ring collecting game. And the rings just weren't shown. You have to collect as many rings as you can.
There was a little section in the second half of the video that showed off rings in it. So there could be a ring collection section.
Okay.
If this is the only level, I am a little bit interested as to why it's not a race. Because that's kind of Sonic's MO is is going fast on a point A to point B stage.
It's a night level. It's not a day level.
Yeah. It's a night level. So yeah, if this is the only stage, a little weird that they didn't pick a race, but it is cool that they're branching more beyond just the costumes and having full-on stages that connect to
especially now that we aren't getting any costumes.
That is also true.
Real money.
If the costumes are unattainable, at the very least you can play some of these stages.
Yeah.
And that's it for news. Do we want to get into our rumor roundup? What do we got this week, Logan?
Rumor roundup. Sonic Frontiers raided in South Korea. Shout out to Kevin for finding this hot rumor.
Yeah. I found a rumor this week.
In the dock when I opened it up. Yeah, excited. South Korea, it was recently raided. And usually when things are raided in South Korea, something comes out about them in like the next couple weeks. So this thing is coming this year. Like it feels pretty much all but guaranteed at this point. There was also a release date listing earlier this week in Steam database saying that the release date was December 3rd. But that is a Saturday. So not sure how I personally feel about that. Maybe December 2. And it's just like a mistake or something. But yeah, and then with the Sonic team boss saying it's not going to be delayed, they're happy with it. This feels real. I think we all didn't think so, but it feels like it's actually going to hit this year.
What was it rated?
This article doesn't
MA? 18 plus? Dead Amy?
Dead Amy, it's too graphic.
Yeah. Really
too
bad.
Much blood.
But yeah, it's a good little step towards release.
Yeah, after that initial video that IGN put out, I couldn't believe that this thing was still targeting this year. But as more stuff came out about it, it felt more and more real. And now that this is here, I feel like within the next maybe month or two, we'll get a bigger deep dive that has that release date, because we are kind of coming up on it. We're already rounding out the end of July, and once you get into the start of fall, you kind of need to get that going before the game launches, presumably in December. So
December 2 would be nice. Dragon Quest Treasures is the next week. A couple weeks removed from everything in November. That'd be a good little window for it.
Yeah.
Can't believe this game's coming out this year.
Heck yeah.
It still might not.
That's it though. Short roundup. I feel like they're going to get shorter. I feel like we know as much about this game as we're going to know before it comes out.
Yeah, and at a certain point, it's just going to be the stuff that they put out for, a full-on trailer, or here's the release day trailer. Not really a rumor. We'll put it in there anyways. We'll leave with a rumor roundup that's a full-blown news story that has been confirmed by Sega.
Talk about this game every week for 7 months. That's pretty good.
And look forward to when the game finally comes out. We can go back through these rumor roundups and figure out how much of it was real.
Yes,
Dead Amy, still waiting. It's Zach, what we've been playing for this week. I know for me personally, it's just been Live Alive, so I don't think I'll have.
I was gonna say the majority of what we've been playing has probably been Live Alive, with a little Monster Hunter sprinkled in there for Logan. Logan, anything other than Monster Hunter and Live Alive?
No, but I did recently remember that Hot Wheels DLC is out, and we have to play that.
Oh, it's out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Do we have to buy that, or?
Yes, it's not on Game Pass, so we'll have to pay for that.
You know what? Speaking of, I did see my Forza update, and I did think it was that, so That did cross my mind at
Yeah.
some point. So yeah, I'd be happy to hop back in. I still got it downloaded, of course, taking up that 100 gigabytes or whatever on my very limited
I've
space.
just been waiting for this. Yeah.
Yep.
Add in
absolutely.
some more.
And then for me, other than those things, I actually sat down and beat Outer Wilds. I spoke about this game on last week's show and gushed about it, how much I love the atmosphere and the space travel and the mystery problem solving. That I loved it so much that I sat down to play this with my friend at 9 p.m. and I just went until I beat it at 3 a.m. I just didn't stop, because when you're rounding out the end of this game, the mysteries that you find and the puzzles that lead you to the next piece, to the next piece, to the next piece, it's kind of addicting. Like, you just want to solve one more thing, and these pieces connect together so well that you feel really smart when you actually start solving some things.
That's super
So
cool.
yeah, absolutely. And the ending of this game, spoiler free, is just very, very beautiful, up to interpretation, which is good. Games like these typically have more open endings. And there's a DLC that came out. I don't know when it came out. This game isn't particularly old, so it had to have come out within the last year or two.
It came out pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing stuff about it like some months ago.
Yeah. So I, even though this game is free on Game Pass where I played it, had to buy the DLC for $15. Didn't feel bad about it, because I'm very excited to hop back in and get through it when I have time, probably after Live Alive. But yeah, love this game. Absolutely recommend it. Incredible vibe, and a space game that I actually enjoyed, being not such a huge fan of space games.
As compared to what are the other space games that you don't get into?
Actually, I really enjoyed Alien Isolation. That's a space game.
Maybe you like space games.
Oh my god, I love space. I just don't. I never gave them a try.
Summer Game Fest was made for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Seriously.
Yeah, that was such a bad show. And then other than
a little jab.
Get that jab in there 2 months later.
Other than that, real quick, I played a couple matches in Multiverses, which came out
today. That game did come out. Didn't it break like records for
concurrent players? Yeah, it had like a few 100,000. I think it was. It's broken tremendous player records and download records for fighting games in general, which goes to show that free to play actually can work, and it should be moving forward something that developers really consider when releasing these kinds of games, just to keep that player base steady and give ease of entry to people who don't want to pay for these games but can hop in and learn them, and then choose to spend money on either characters or costumes, cosmetics, modes, all that kind of stuff. So I hopped in. Once you hop in, you do the tutorials. The tutorials teach you a pretty good job on how to play it. It flows really well for being a platform fighter. The characters are very bouncy, and it really feels like you have control over every aspect of their movement, which is good. That's what you want. And I didn't do a whole lot because I downloaded it earlier today. Didn't have a whole lot of time to play it, but I hopped into a couple one-on-one matches, and this game is much more 2v2 focused. So you find a friend, you hop on online, and you play a 2v2 match. But you could do 1v1s, which is what I did. And it was a lot of fun. You don't start off with very many characters. I think you only have an option of starting off with 4 out of a roster of, I think, 17. So the roster isn't huge, but they've already, announced a couple characters coming later this month and next month. LeBron James. All right, sure. From Space Jam, I think his
from Space Jam,
model,
not from the NBA,
not from real life. No. I think it's his character model from Space Jam, which is a WB.
Yeah,
WB
when they
property.
showed off LeBron James, voiced by not LeBron James. Yeah.
And then Rick and Morty coming next month, I believe. So they're supporting this game already. There's plans to support it, which is
bizarre
good.
roster.
I know it's crazy.
Did you try Shaggy with his what is that move?
Shaggy's the tutorial character. Yeah, he's fun.
Yeah.
And he's voiced by Matthew Lillard, the one true Shaggy. And the voice acting in this game is one of the biggest highlights. Having like authentic voices from people who have actually played these characters lends credit to this being a genuinely high budget game. The stages, my biggest complaint are a lot of these stages feel bland, even though they're from properties that I like. The music in a couple of them are particularly good, but for the most part, they're so-so, which is something that Smash does a lot better. Very dynamic and memorable stages. Yeah, but overall had a pretty good time testing out a couple characters. Excited for me and Logan to hop in and do some 2v2s.
Are you on PlayStation?
Yeah, PS5 is what I played it on. I believe there's full crossplay, and it felt genuinely good. The netcode didn't have any latency issues or setback in the matches. It felt very smooth. So
Sweet.
Overall, very few complaints. There's not really any, single player incentive. Like a game like Smash has a lot of things you could just hop in and play by yourself. This is the kind of game where you just hop on and go straight into online multiplayer, which is fine. That's what it's focused on. But where'd Logan go?
I don't.
Oh, he's back.
What just happened?
Logan
You disappeared.
So Logan tried to piece out of the show a little bit early there.
We're not done. I was talking about multiverses.
Okay, I'm back.
I finished talking about multiverses. Overall, very excited to play more of it. I think it's doing wonders for the fighting game community, and it's actually genuinely a very good game with some interesting characters. I like the roster a lot for me personally, which is good.
Good that it's a good game. You kind of wonder with some of those, especially when it was free to play, and we had the Nickelodeon one that came out
All-Star
wasn't
Brawl.
very good.
It was not a very good game,
and that was actually you had to pay for that. So
they're trying to fix it. I think they added voice acting,
yeah,
and character costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Bad costumes, but costumes.
Yep.
Yeah, the free-to-play model seems to be working well for some of these. We just had Fall Guys moving over to that. When you really need to have a vibrant online space to keep your game running, it seems like free-to-play is the way to go for a lot of these.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Nintendo, fix Mario Strikers, make it free-to-play.
They are not doing that.
They would never do that.
I think that game is just abandoned and dead.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
They would not do that to the property. But for some of these other ones, I think it gives them either it sets them off stronger. In the case of Fall Guys, gives it a new lease on life, which is really great, even if you have to spend a lot on the costumes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think Fall Guys has figured out a good balance of how much things should cost real world money. So
because I've gotten almost 300 hours out of that game. I would throw it a few dollars for a really cool costume, but not how much they're asking.
Yeah,
what's the asking price for some of these?
Like the bundles for like Halo was like $16 for 3 costumes. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
that's way too much.
That's a lot.
Especially
if you know that Sonic is coming too, or if you're like maybe some of these other ones will be coming out. Tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Okay, any final thoughts before we wrap up for this week's show?
Scoob is a terrible movie.
We're going back to Scoob. Man, when did we talk about that?
We did a Scoob spoiler cast tangent on the middle of this show. Like
that movie is
ago.
Dreadful. Mm-hmm. Do not watch it. It is one of the few movies that I have watched where I literally had to stop the movie, go do something else, and pick it back up later because I couldn't make it through it in one go. And I don't even think it's very long.
Why did you pick it back up later?
Because I had to see it to the end so that I could talk about it. Talked about it with Logan, talked about it with my sister who also watched it and thought it was terrible. It was a sunk cost.
Yeah, I haven't
had
seen
to
it.
Get out of it. Zach, anything from you? Did you watch Scoob?
I didn't watch Scoob. I'm never going to watch Scoob, but I watched the live action Scooby-Doos, enjoyed them thoroughly, rewatched them frequently, at least once a month. I rewatch those movies. That's not true. That's not true at all. Once every couple of years, probably.
Once a month.
Which is still
it's that time of the month. Crack out all of the live action Scooby-Doo movies.
Yep. But I did get a Quarry poster, if you haven't noticed.
Oh yeah, I did notice.
I got it for free when I went to go pick up my pre-ordered copy of Live Live from GameStop. They were giving away free Quarry posters because they just had a surplus for some reason. So I just took one. I didn't
like pre-orders.
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. Probably. I didn't pre-order the game. I bought it on launch. So that's probably what it was. They had a good amount of them, so that's what I would guess. I went to go get my copy of Live Live from GameStop. didn't get their shipment in, so they had no game to give me. So I took the poster, left, went next door to Walmart, bought one of the 2 copies left at Walmart, went back to GameStop, canceled my pre-order, got refunded, and that was it. Thanks, GameStop.
They're too busy working on NFTs. Did they ask
They're
you
too
if
busy.
you wanted to buy some NFTs?
Would you like to transfer your pre-order money to this NFT?
Wow.
They did not.
No, thank you.
Thank goodness.
On that note, let's wrap this episode up for this week. No show next week. We're all going to be busy.
We're busy.
Unfortunately.
Playing Live Alive.
Yeah, so we'll have...
So we'll definitely have...
we'll have final thoughts on that in 2 weeks.
Definitely, yep.
When we get back to that. But yeah, you can catch us here Thursdays or Fridays, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use, on YouTube at Ode to Games for the video version of the podcast. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening. Logan's putting on his little fan.
It's hot.
It's so hot.
It's so hot.
And we will catch you in 2 weeks, hopefully for final thoughts on Live Alive. Catch you later.